Hey, I'm Nancy Cavey, National ERISA and Individual Disability Attorney. Welcome to Winning Isn't Easy. Before we get started, I've got to give you a legal disclaimer. The Florida Bar says I have to tell you that this is not legal advice. So I've done that. But nothing will ever prevent me from giving you an easy to understand overview of the disability insurance world, the games the carriers play, and what you need to know to get the disability benefits you deserve. Today, I'm going to talk about brain injuries and long-term disability claims. We're going to talk about first the basics of brain injuries. Second, I'm going to talk about how a Utah federal judge upheld United of Omaha's denial of disability benefits to a brain injured policyholder and what you can learn from that denial. And how does a brain injury impact the ERISA lawsuit statute of limitations period? Let's take a break for a moment before we get started with this week's episode.
Have you been robbed of your peace of mind from your disability insurance carrier? You owe it to yourself to get a copy of Robbed of Your Peace of Mind, which provides you with everything you need to know about the long-term disability claim process. Request your free copy of the book at caveylaw.com today.
Welcome back to Winning Isn't Easy. I'm going to talk about brain injury basics and basic brain injury claim tips that you need to understand. Let's first talk about a brain injury. I know that a brain injury can significantly alter the course of an individual's life and that of their family. A traumatic brain injury, known as a TBI, can be caused by trauma to the brain, whether it be a violent blow to the head or a penetrating injury like a bullet wound or any other types of accidents or injuries that can cause trauma to the brain. One of the things that I always want to know when I'm dealing with a brain injury claim is what are the symptoms that you're having? Now, symptoms of the brain injury can depend on what part of the brain has been injured. Mild traumatic brain injury can cause temporary dysfunction of brain cells. A more serious injury, though, can result in bruising, torn tissue, bleeding, and even death. The physical consequences of a brain injury can depend on whether the person has a mild, moderate, or severe brain injury. And the symptoms can range. They can range from headaches, dizziness, impaired concentration, slowness of movement, paralysis, weakness on one side, seizures, sensory problems, impaired alertness, fatigue, language disorder, and problems with speech and vision. But there are also cognitive problems. And these, of course, can be difficult to prove because they're not quote unquote visible. The cognitive problems can include difficulty talking, following instructions, staying on task, sequencing, processing information. And it also may involve some psychological symptoms because it's not uncommon for those with brain injury to act out or to suffer from depression. The physical, cognitive, and behavioral symptoms can have catastrophic consequences on your ability to work. But I will tell you, the disability carriers do not like traumatic brain injury cases because sometimes there is no evidence of an organic brain injury based on diagnostic studies like MRIs or CT scans. And of course, they don't necessarily like the results of neuropsychological testing either. So often when we get a brain injury claim, I know that there are some common reasons that we have to deal with these. And they form the basis of not only my application, but a continuing claim for benefits. If the case is being denied or terminated. Disability carriers are likely to deny claims on the basis that there's no objective basis of the cognitive or behavioral problems. They'll say there's no objective basis of either the physical or cognitive restrictions and limitations. And then they'll say, look, there's no causal relationship between the cognitive and behavioral problems and your other restrictions and limitations. And you can do your own or any other occupation. So that's the starting point for how disability carriers will go about analyzing these files. Now, to get the disability benefits you deserve because of a brain injury, I think that there are a number of things that you need to do as a starting point. First, you need to get a copy of the disability policy or plan because you want to understand the definition of disability, occupation, self-reported problems. You want to understand the parameters of proof and what you need to do to get the benefits you deserve because of the brain injury. One of the other policy terms we're looking for are self-reported limitation conditions, and it can limit how long you get benefits for self-reported conditions or symptoms, including headaches, lightheadedness, weakness, fatigue. So I want to understand the waterfront, if you will, as we put together a claim or defend a claim. The next thing we should be doing, or you should be doing, is getting a copy of your medical records to look to see if there's an objective basis of the diagnosis, what the records say about your report of symptoms, and what those records say about your limitations. Thirdly, if you have continued to work after a brain injury, you want to get a copy of your personnel file to see what your supervisors have said about the impact the brain injuries had on your work performance. Additionally, you're going to want to get a copy of your job description from your employer. I always want my clients or their family members to create a job description of the physical and cognitive duties, the interaction with other employees and customers. And as part of that, I like them to also explain what the physical or cognitive problems are that impact their ability to do the material and substantial duties of the occupation. It's also crucial that your physician understand what the occupational description is, because they're going to be asked to complete forms called an attending physician statement form. And they're going to be asked, what's the objective basis of the diagnosis? What's the objective basis of the restrictions and limitations? What are the objective reasons, doctor, you think they can't do the material and substantial duties of their occupation? So obviously, your doctor needs to understand what your occupational duties are, what problems you're having, or what duties you can't perform at all, so they can put this together in a coherent report or a coherent APS form. I also think that it's important for you and your family members to prepare a diary of your symptoms and even include the side effects of medication. You need to give examples, I think, of how those symptoms impact your functionality, both physically, cognitively, and psychiatrically. And you can see that putting together a brain injury claim can be pretty complex. I think that this is the kind of disability claim that requires the assistance of an experienced ERISA disability attorney who could put together the application or to even appeal a wrongful denial or termination of claims. Remember, disability carriers have all sorts of denial tools in their denial toolbox that they're going to use in a brain injury claim from the beginning and through the life of the case. Got it? All right. In the next segment, I'm going to be talking about how a Utah federal judge upheld the denial of the disability benefits to a brain injury policyholder. And we'll see how we're going to put together the things that we've just talked about and how it works in real life. Ready for a break? Let's do it.